Hope I did my makeup right. Nothing.
I will call to order the meeting for Wednesday, September 3rd. May I have roll call, please?
Mayor Allen,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Clayton,
Present.
Commissioner Taylor,
Present.
Commissioner Crowley,
Present.
and Commissioner Skidmore.
Present.
I would like to welcome everyone here in the audience as well as everyone watching or listening at home. We will begin today's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by Pastor Terrence Robertson with Bethany Chapel Baptist Church.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Skidmore, would you do us honors?
I will do that. Okay, thank you. Let's bow. Father in heaven, we give you thanks for this gathering. We give you thanks for our community, Lord, and all the people involved and interested in our city government. It's not an easy job, but Lord, we ask for your direction and guidance. We cannot pretend to do this on our own, but we ask for your direction and guidance tonight. Just give us clear minds, pure hearts, and hands ready to serve you in this capacity. We give you thanks for this city and many, many ways you've blessed us. We do pray for protection from the storm tonight. We do need the rain, thank you, but we just ask for protection from severe weather. So give you thanks in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Skidmore. We'll move on to public comments. Do we have any registered?
We have some registered for the budget hearing.
Okay, none other than
No,
that.
no.
Okay. Okay, we will move past item number 7 with nothing under that. We'll move on to the consent agenda, which includes minutes from the August 27th, 2025 City Commission meeting and the agenda approval. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. At this time, I'd like to give commissioners a chance to declare any conflict or communication they've had that might influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially. Seeing none, we will move on to new business. We'll start with item 11A.
Public hearing for intent to exceed revenue neutral rate and 2026 budget.
The public hearing notice was published on August 20th, 2025 in the Ottawa Herald and offers an opportunity to receive public feedback on the proposed intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate and the 2026 budget. I will open the public hearing at 7:03, and we will first hear from City Manager Silcott or Director Landis on this.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Commissioners and our public who's in attendance here tonight and at home. The budget process is the time of year where we put planning mechanisms in place to adopt our expenditure authority for 2026. This is perhaps the single greatest responsibility of the governing body and your administrative staff in presenting this budget for your consideration, as nothing's more crucial than the preparation and adoption of this document. This evening, you're going to hear several terms bantered about, and I know that our governing body is well versed in many of these terms, but for those in attendance who may be unfamiliar and how these apply to our budget process, I'd like to kind of go over them, and then Director Landis in her presentation will have an overview and a little more detail on how some of these pertain directly. But you'll hear terms like expenditure authority, which is the total dollar amount authorized to spend in a given fund with respect to property taxes. That is the total amount that can be expensed, and utilizing the state budget process for municipalities. determines what that expenditure amount will be for that fund. You'll hear mill levy, which is expressed in mills, not actual dollars, but is a decimal point. And this is not related to expenditure authority, as it is a multiplier of our assessed valuation. So we will also talk about assessed valuations. And what the assessed valuation is a methodology of calculating the value for taxation purposes of our properties. Commercial properties take a, say, a property valued at $100,000 total value and applies a 25% calculation, so $25,000, in determining for taxation purposes its value. For residential property, which I think is what most of us here this evening are most interested in as residential taxpayers, that would be 11.5%. So for that $100,000 home, that would be $11,500 for the purposes of taxation. And then you take that amount times the 1,000, the 0.001 to get how much value a mill is. So we will also talk about a published amount, and we will discuss a revenue neutral amount. As over the past several weeks, as we headed into and shortly after receiving our valuation numbers, I know I had independently had conversations with numerous members of the board regarding what that means. What is the revenue neutral rate? How does that reflect or relate to the 26 proposal versus what we had levied in 2025? And so throughout our discussions and our presentations, we presented a status quo budget that had limited increases in certain areas. Many of those, such as our airport taxiway reconstruction project, was funded with 95% FAA federal funds and a local match, which is apportioned annually in increments of approximately $175,000. $75,000 that then cannot exceed a dollar amount that's based upon their calculation. So we utilize those funds that we accrue annually until we hit that $600,000 limit, and then apply those for our local match. So we're really minimizing the impact of the airport on our general funds, our property tax levied funds. That is just one example. And so throughout this process, as we said, we've developed recommendations for the adoption of the budget, which is 11C on your agenda, or XI.C if you're online, and that would be the actual adoption of the budget. So at that time, you'll have, once we get through our presentation, an option for your motions to adopt as presented, or to adopt at the revenue neutral rate of 44.112, which was last year's mill levy. It's important to note that the revenue neutral rate is in mills, and the budget adoption is in dollars, which is the total expenditure authority that we can actually levy. So when we get to consideration of the resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate, as Director Landis had discussed during the presentation on July 9th, for consideration of setting the hearing and publishing a resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate, because our assessed valuation is an estimate and may come in higher or it may come in lower. Again, it is set to mills relative to, by statute, the 79-2988 and Section F, paragraph 2. defines how that is actually calculated, which is essentially the amount levied in the prior year with our mill levy rate defined by the revenue neutral rate, which would be that 44.112. So when we make the recommendation in the resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate, that is to limit the potential shortfall or longfall of the tax levied from our mill levy. So what that means is if our assessment comes in low or it comes in high, it'll be irrelevant to us and the adoption of the budget, which would be presented at the 44.643 is published for your consideration, or at the revenue neutral rate of 44.112. So when we make the recommendation to exceed the revenue neutral rate with respect to the resolution that will be considered at the end of public comments and staff's presentation, that is the rationale for that. So if we come in, let's say, higher than that, then we would not actually be needing to write checks to each individual property owner in the amount that they paid that exceeded the prior year, because what we adopt with the budget is the expenditure authority. And so what's presented on item 11C or XI.C on your PDF, that will reflect the expenditure amount for option 1, which is as published, and option 2 at the revenue neutral rate. So we'd be capping our expenditure authority based upon that prior year amount. And again, this is a process that I know you've spent many days both in public meetings and also meeting one-on-one with department directors assessing their needs, with Director Landis on some of the details and sharpening the pencil, and myself as far as assuring that this status quo budget that we're presenting with respect to our delivery of services is in alignment with the community's desired direction and our strategic priorities and initiatives that we've outlined in our strategic business plan. And so with that, I will turn it over to Director Landis to run through our budget process, which will also go into highlights for the budget and again, why we're presenting this resolution as is. Sorry.
All right, thank you very much. First of all, I appreciate you all being here. This is the first time I've had this many people show up for a budget hearing, and I am really appreciative that you came out to hear the details and hopefully have some really good questions. I'm hopefully we'll be able to answer some of those questions in the presentation. So like Mr. Silcott mentioned, our budget process has been we've had 7 actual planned meeting discussions, but we also did a couple of different budget recaps in some of those other meetings. And we started this process actually back in April, bringing conversations to the City Commission when we started the process with our capital improvement plan. And that is actually later in our agenda for approval of that process. We started out in June bringing the conversation to the commission about the actual budget itself, and we started with our utilities. But as far as preparation goes, we began this process back in January and February. And so what you're hearing tonight is the culmination of all of those conversations and the detail that we've discussed in each one of those presentations. And all of those are online and available if you're interested in hearing the conversations that happened around all of the detail within each one of those funds. We did bring every one of those funds individually to the commission for conversation. Some of the budget highlights, and I want to keep in mind here that these budget highlights are for the entire budget. So there's a lot of funds within our total budget, not just those that impact property taxes. And so we put together the entire budget based on our strategic pillars, our guide, which guide not just this 2026 budget, but our future budgets. We prepare a minimum of 5 years for every fund that we manage. Continued financial participation in the Franklin County Emergency Communications Center operations budget. We participate in 50% of the cost of that communication center. The Economic Incentive Program rebates for residential and commercial development. Increased costs related to property insurance, personnel and benefits, and materials for construction, maintenance, and replacement. And that would be anything from our streets, parks, and all of our utilities. We have 4 utilities. And then we've incorporated a budget for community attraction and tourism, and that would be our transient guest tax. We've included continued support for our currently funded community partners, and we're able to add support for 3 new partner organizations. We have improvements included for the airport taxiway reconstruction, utility infrastructure, our parks, street maintenance, facilities, and sidewalks. Our infrastructure studies and master planning for the city's levy system and electric utilities. Included in there is a GIS system update, data update with flyover, guiding our mapping and asset management, and then continued right-of-way tree trimming for electric line clearance to mitigate power outages. And lastly on our slide is the total amount of expenditures does include all of our designated and undesignated expenditure authority. So that's largely most of your fund balances within those funds. And so if you see the total expenditures being 72 million, we don't plan to spend all of those dollars. It's total actual expenditures is around 55 million. But the way the state budget process works is that you have to give yourself the budget authority to be able to spend should you have an emergency arise, without having to go through a process in order to be able to spend those dollars. And so we can make those decisions as those types of issues might arise. Our assessed valuation history, again, this is high level, but just some basic background information. We discussed when we received our assessed valuation in June that it has gone up 7.42%. That assessed valuation is a portion of the appraised value that the county determines. Again, this is just an estimate. As you can see at the very bottom line there that it has been declining. It's still an increase, but it has been declining over the last 4 years. The number that comes to us is what dictates how much 1 mil represents. And 1 mil for our budget represents $156,862. That's a calculation. It's spelled out for you in the memo, how much each mil represents. Included in that assessed valuation, if you look at the red line, that represents our assessed valuation change over time. And the portion of that assessed valuation that really runs through the city, and we have, I wouldn't call that control over, but things that are happening within our city limits that we are most likely involved in or have some part in approval of is new construction. And that new improvement or change in use or new construction actually only represents 3.8 million of the total 10.8 million. So of that assessed valuation that comes to us, new construction in our community represents 3.8 million. It's 2.44% of the total assessed value. The white space that you see between the blue bars and the red line is the portion of the valuation that the city does not control. Our mill rate trends, just to show you a couple of graphs here on the left, we just show the declining mill rate history. A mill rate is simply the way that we value the total amount of property tax dollars that are needed to fund a budget in any one particular year. That does not mean that the taxes on any one particular property went down, because we're only one of several taxing agencies within the city of Ottawa, or within Franklin County overall. and I'll show you that on another slide. Our mill rate history there on the right does break out the city from the library. So city services or city operations are reflected in the middle column, the library on the right, and the total on the left. And the bottom graph on the right is just another representation of the breakout between the city and the library budget. The library budget is brought to us. Their board determines what their budget will be annually. They can budget up to 10 mils worth of property taxes. Currently, they're representing 8.589 as their estimated mill rate for 2026. This is a budget that the city commission doesn't have any control over and has no opportunity to lower or raise once it's brought to them for consideration as part of the total mill levy of the city. The debt service fund is also a mill levy fund. This is the fund in which the debt for all city projects is paid from. In this fund, only 16.9% of the total expenditures or principal and interest debt payments in any one given year come from property taxes. We do have a debt ceiling, if you will, and our debt capacity right now is at 44,681,235. We're only at 6.2% of the total debt allowed under that statutory debt limitation. That is there because we've had this conversation with the commission. The commission had asked some questions specifically about how much is what do we have for debt capacity for the city overall, and that's important for us as we move into several large projects that are included in our capital improvement project or plan, and the potential for some debt in the future for those projects. The auditorium fund is also a mill levy fund. Our auditorium has 1.777 as the mill rate. That is very close to what it was in 2025. This is by charter ordinance, the OMA is allowed to levy a mill rate to help support the operations and capital improvements for the OMA. They actually, by charter ordinance, are allowed up to 3 mills total, but for total operations and capital, they are at 1.77. Lastly, as the fourth mill levy supported fund is our general fund. Within the general fund, we have community attraction programming, community vision, and quality of life project initiatives from the survey that just recently was done across our community and our strategic business plan. We have continued funding for our community partners, which we discussed earlier, and we added 3 new community partners to our funding this year. Improvement project funding transfers for the airport taxiway reconstruction and sidewalk maintenance, city facility maintenance, rebates for our economic incentive programs, which is largely known as our NRP program, and then our continued participation in the 911 emergency communications budget. Not shown within our budget are several items that we have determined would help to increase or enhance our services across the city by the addition of some positions, both in police, fire, and public works, some law enforcement range improvements, and funding, adequate funding for our life cycle vehicle and equipment replacement. Overall, we have a 2026 published budget. This appeared in the Ottawa Herald by statute. We have to publish that a minimum of 10 days in advance of a public hearing. It's a lot of small numbers on the left there, but we wanted to show that that's what actually appeared in the newspaper. And it does represent all of the funds that are budgeted funds. We do have some funds that are unbudgeted, listed there at the bottom. And then our total expenditures, actual expenditures for 2024, our predicted expenditures for 2025, and our proposed budget for 2026. So the middle column does not represent the current 2025 budget. It represents what we think we will end up spending in 2025. That's important because if you're looking across the bottom at total expenditures, they're not going to look like it's near what we've budgeted in 26, but we had budgeted actually a number that was higher than that in 2025, and we're expecting to spend less than budgeted. Again, in the middle section down lower, you can see that assessed valuation for this year is 156,862. Last year was 146,30, and the previous year was 134,707. This slide is really an educational slide for all of us, and it was a good process to run through when putting this together. So at the very top in the gray boxes on the right, the current average home price is $207,500. We recognize that not every home is listed or valued at that. Some are higher, some are lower, but this number is listed as an average. That is a 6.8% increase over last year for the same source. So at our current tax rate, and which I want to note here, the tax rates for all of the taxing entities on the left are not approved rates for 2026. Those are published rates for all of the taxing entities that are that will show up on a tax bill in the city of Ottawa. And so we do not know how they will vote and approve their own budgets, but we have control over the orange line, which is the 36 mills as presented there as what was published. And so out of a total tax rate of 159.966, the city of Ottawa and your city commission have control over only 36 of those mills. 36 of those mills for this average home price represents about $860 of a total tax bill of $3,816.79. So of the $860 that the city controls, we've broken it out by function. That's not every division or department within the city, but we've broken out about how many dollars over 1 year for this one property goes to support public safety, streets, parks and cemeteries, general support, debt service, and the OMA. And so for your police and fire combined out of this one residence would be approximately $347 out of your $860 that the city gets from that property tax bill. The revenue neutral rate is, as Mr. Silcott explained earlier, it is a Senate bill that went into place in 2021. So prior to that, budget was calculated differently, but everyone moved to this new calculation method going forward. And the revenue neutral rate is provided to us from the county annually. So in June, when we receive our assessed valuation, we also receive the revenue neutral rate. That revenue neutral rate is a calculation based on the previous year's taxes against the current year's assessed valuation. So it is always going to be lower than what a current budget would look like at your assessed valuation. And you have the opportunity to exceed that or to maintain that revenue neutral rate. In the cases where you intend to exceed that revenue neutral rate, a notice was given to everyone in the city of Ottawa, every tax-paying property within the city of Ottawa, as was for every taxing agency for those same addresses. So when they received a notice recently, it would have stated what our intended tax rate would be. That's what we published. That's the mill rate, not the tax rate. I apologize. The total property taxes, the total expenditures, and the estimated mill rate. And that information was provided for all taxing entities, along with their public hearing dates. In this case, if we were to use a total tax rate and reduce that published mill rate for just the city services portion of the total tax bill for that same home that we just used as an example, the difference would be $12.67 for this home. That represents a 0.531 decrease in the mill rate. So the difference between the published mill rate for the city services and a reduction to the revenue neutral rate is $12.67 for this example home on the screen. Our recommendation tonight is that, as Mr. Silcott explained earlier, there are a couple of action items that will occur. First and foremost, you will have the opportunity to hear from your public and receive feedback. And secondly, after that is completed, after that portion is completed, we will not close the public hearing yet. You will then consider a resolution of the intent to levy a property tax that exceeds the revenue neutral rate. The important part of this action is that the state statute determined that that if you do not pass that resolution and that assessed valuation, the finalized assessed valuation that occurs in October is delivered from the county and changes that mill rate to be higher than your established revenue neutral rate, that you're responsible for providing a refund back to every one of those addresses within your city limits or within your taxing jurisdiction. The assessed valuation is just an estimate. The final does not come to us until October. That's the difficult part of establishing a mill rate or an approved budget. What you do know is the amount of property taxes that it takes to support the budget that you would like to approve. And so when we adopt a budget in your item C, that is where you can make the determination of what that impact will look like. And so you could then adopt a budget that is reflective of the published amount, or you could adopt a budget for anything below that. And those two options that have been provided to you is the published amount or the revenue neutral rate, reflective of the revenue neutral rate. Again, adopting that resolution does not determine what your actual budget is going to be, but it is a necessary step in the process that's provided under state statute. And the state does recommend that you pass that resolution so that you are not in a situation where you cannot control that mill rate might exceed what your revenue neutral rate was. And then the second action item will be number C on your agenda, which is to consider adoption of the budget, which we just discussed. So with that, I believe that the next action would be to either ask questions of myself and City Manager Silcott, or take feedback from the public that has come this evening, and then we can answer questions. If you have any, it's up to you how you'd like to proceed.
Do we have any questions for Director Landis? Some of our questions might be the same as some of the questions in the audience. So
Sure.
does anybody have any questions? I just wanted to say, again, the intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate does not mean we are exceeding it. It's just the protection in case the calculation and valuation is different than what
That's
was
right.
anticipated.
That's right. Okay.
And ultimately, that's reflected in your expenditure authority. That's when we adopt the budget.
Sure.
And that's the most important.
You need to come to-
Are there any other questions? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And I just want to state that I will be calling on the public. If comments become repetitive or off topic, I'll be asking the speaker to conclude their remarks. And if we want to start with the list, do you have the list?
Yep.
Okay.
Susan Hughes. You said that right?
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm speaking because I am opposed to exceeding the revenue neutral rate. We are all the taxpayers here. There is no public money. All the money that you're spending is from our pockets. We all have budgets. We can't have everything we want. We have to make choices. We have to sometimes cut corners. I don't mind paying more taxes for valid things like police, fire, streets, safe parks that are not filled with the homeless people that are very discouraging to using the parks. But my main concern is the amount of money that we have spent to buy a failing golf course. I see the things all the time of all the people that we are hiring to work there at pretty good salaries, probably more than what most of your citizens are making. Is that ever going to be a profitable, that money recover? Is that something that my tax money is always going to be supporting, that golf course that I have no use for? And I don't think that's a legitimate city business like streets, fire, parks, police, the things that we need to be spending our money on. It sounds like a waste of my money and all the money of these hardworking people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Samantha Mill.
Good evening. I wanted to come up and talk about some of the tax bills that I've received for the last 8 years that I've been here. I've had to contest them at least 3 times, and I'm sure many of the people here have had to do the same. I called in when we got the first tax bill, and when I called, it was very concerning when I had the lady who answered the phone say, "Oh my gosh, you're at a 45.5% increase on your tax bill." We've only had one of 2 people have that amount over the last year. And how many other people in this room, you say it's at 11.5%? How many of the people who have had over that? How many people are having to choose to either move out of Franklin County, because that's what you're making me have to do? I can't spend $9,000 a year on taxes, and that's where I would be if it kept going up for the 2025 and 26 years. This is just the 24 appraised year. And with that, I am looking at moving out of Ottawa because I can't afford to live here anymore. The more and more people who can't afford to live here, you guys are going to lose a lot of tax funding. If you guys could put money into the streets instead of just putting a little patch over it, and then a month later, you're driving right back into the same pothole, that would be amazing. You know, keep putting the money into the fire, keep putting the money into the police, do things like that, but put the money where it counts. We don't need a legacy park. We don't need things like that until we can start seeing the money coming back to us taxpayers who pay the money to see results. We don't need super fancy things coming here until we see it, the value of what we're putting into our town back into it. You know, I'm tired of driving vehicles and you go and hit a pothole, you think it's covered again, and bam, it hits that. You got to go buy a new tire. I'm spending more money out of my pocket. I'm getting taxed on that too. But, you know, I'm trying to sell my house. This is the 3rd time I'm trying to sell it. And the value that you have appraised that, people are laughing at me trying to sell it at that amount. You know, if someone wants to pay me what you're appraising for it, I'll gladly give it to them. They can have the taxes that go with it, but, you know, there's people in this room. We need to see results. We can't keep seeing these bills and 45.5%, and the lady on the phone tells me, she kind of laughs like, wow, that's insane coming from your guys' office. You know, that's pretty bad. So take into consideration the people that are in this room, the people who are funding the town. I have to put a budget together for a $5 million company every year. I don't have debts at the end of the year. I don't have to account for extra debts, especially, you know, millions of dollars worth of debt. So let's try to put the money back into the town where we're not having those debts, put it where it counts, the streets, the police, the fire department, but let's quit spending it on silly things because they're not bringing in money back into the city. So thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Barger,
I'm fine.
Sherry Engelbert,
My comment will be short and sweet. The taxes are way too much. Continue to way it is going. Will we be priced out of our house? And we're getting ready for retirement, and we're going to be priced right out of our house that we would either need to move or whatever. So I would like to see, I know this isn't a county thing, but state of Missouri, you get to a certain age, 62, your property taxes stay the same for the rest of the time. I would like to see that happen. I know that's a state thing, but anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Lee Bond,
I'd like to back the rest of them up. I think taxes in this town are ridiculous. I got a daughter that lives in Arkansas. She lives in three times the size of the house I do, and her taxes are $300 a year. My house is 150 years old, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, hardwood floors, and I think my taxes are terrible. They say my house is worth $138,000. I'd love to sell it for that. Second thing is the streets. I keep calling in and talking to whoever. I don't know who it is. But, and I can't get him to talk to me face to face anyway. But Blackhawk Street, there's holes in there that'll swallow a car. But yet we can't get nothing done to it because we're the north side of town. We're the stepchild. And that's the way it seems because we don't never get nothing on the north side. We tried to get a grocery store one time and that couldn't happen because they all wouldn't let it happen. The third thing is I want to reiterate on what she said, the golf course. I think that's the dumbest purchase y'all ever made. A golf course does not make money. I've played golf all my life. And you can't make no money on the golf course. And you all bought a failing one. That's the reason you bought it, and that's the reason they sold it, because it was failing. But our tax money's paid that, so. Oh, yeah, yeah. But that's true. But that's all I got to say on that, but.
Thank you.
Greg Hazer?
I would just love to know how you guys can set up here. You guys have been talking infrastructure and everything for years and years and years, and you haven't done nothing. Just the other day, I drove down Main Street. You know what it looks like? A guy out there with a roller and a paint bucket doing lines that you guys can put GPS lawnmowers on a golf course? How do you guys live with yourself? How do you do it? You get paid to do a job. You get paid to look after these people. It is your responsibility. Nobody else, is yours. You took that oath. So how you tell me how you guys are going to fix things, infrastructure? You ain't done no road work. You ain't done no underground work, but you do aerials deals and graphics and stuff that show nothing. Nobody knows what's underground around here. Because nobody ever puts new in. Nobody ever does anything. The only thing you guys put in is if you got new housing development, then you guys put new water lines in, new everything. You guys tax me to death. You guys do nothing for me. You don't give me water. You don't give me sewer. You don't give me electricity. You don't do nothing for me. Absolutely nothing. You put me in city limits and you give me nothing. How would you guys, how do you guys live with yourself? The only thing I get is you guys bought a golf course. And since you guys bought that golf course in the past month, I've had 3 windows broke out. How are we going to get this solved? The only thing you're doing is raising taxes so everybody can go down here to Legacy Park and sit around the table and listen to a band. I just don't understand. I would love to know how you guys can go to sleep at night knowing the way you treat people. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Kevin Hirschberger?
Yeah, thank you. There's a lot of passionate people here. I've lived here not quite 3 years. The property of my value in 22, I believe, was around 265, 270. I bought it in 23 when the prices went up at around 365. Of course, the county was sniffing on my doorstep right after I moved in. So you can guess what happened. Right now, I'm looking at almost $8,000 a year in personal property tax. And before it was around $300 to $3,200. So you can imagine the increase on that. I'm a senior citizen, and speaking on behalf of senior citizens, if we don't do something to help us out, you're going to run our butts out of here. And I'm new to the area because we loved Ottawa
we're kind of back to the river, kind of country feel, because my wife's not a country girl. That's where I want to go, is the country. So we kind of did a moderation. We love it there. We like the area, but you're going to run us out of here because seniors, I don't know how you guys low income can afford it. I don't know how you can afford it. Luckily I am able to afford it, but I'm telling you what, it hits the pocketbook every year. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Sean Markley.
All right, thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and speak. Biggest thing I want to talk about is I haven't seen anybody from the city commission, usher or shepherd, going to bat for the public for lower taxes. All I hear is, well, we're just a small portion of it. Well, so what? You represent us. Go to bat for us. Go to bat for us. Work on it. Have some conversations. It's not just, I understand the budget and all these things are not easy. And I get told that I was told today that I don't understand the budget and I don't look at it. Yeah, I do. I look at a lot of the budget and I understand how many things in this city are propped up with property tax dollars. You want me to name them? Let's start. So the golf course, 100% going to be propped up with tax dollars. The auditorium. These are not things I hate. Everybody thinks I hate these things. Well, you're against them. You're against them. I'm absolutely not against these things. What I'm against is when do you draw the line in the sand of how many things you prop up with tax dollars? Because all you do is burden the citizens. I've had multiple conversations with single moms, elderly. They're hurting, as you've heard. These people are hurting. When you continue to prop things up, oh, it was free tax money, it was grants. It doesn't matter. You got to have people down there taking care of Legacy Square every day, picking up trash, doing this, doing that. That's a burden on the taxpayers. The parks are a burden on the taxpayers. These are all existing things. We keep adding things to that burden. What suffers? It's pretty obvious what suffers, because our streets aren't getting fixed. It's taken almost a full year to fix potholes in this town. Almost a full year, guys. That's insane. For me, that's just insanity. I just don't understand that. And so the big thing that I'm going to tell you is you guys have somebody's got to step up and lead and start shepherding and start figuring out how to draw the line in the sand. Because I haven't seen it yet. And until we see it, we will start voting new people in. And that's what needs to happen. But I want to see you guys, that's what you guys were elected to do, is step up and serve. Step up and represent. I get told all the time, well, why don't you run? Why don't you shut your mouth if you're not going to step up and run? You know, I don't have to shut my mouth. I don't have to be quiet. I have just as much power on the outside as I would sitting in that seat, and actually more. So that's why I remain on the outside. Because I am going to represent the people from the outside. But I want people to sit here and work with us. It doesn't seem that we're getting listened to. Because I hear the majority of people talking about what they're irritated about, and it just seems to continue and not be addressed. Where's the problem lie? If you own a company and things aren't getting taken care of, where's the problem lie? It's leadership. Problem lies in leadership. Period. If things aren't getting taken care of, that falls on leadership. So if the leader's not doing his job, her job, whoever it is, then they need to start being held accountable. because I don't see it. I don't see things getting fixed. I just see the status quo. So I really challenge all of you to step up and shepherd this movement to help the public out. Take the strain off of the public. Do I have the answers? I don't. But I bet you if you put your heads to it and work at it, talk to a few people, I bet you can figure it out. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim Van Leeden.
Can I say one more thing before it's out or?
No, sorry, we're moving on, but you can contact us by email if it's on the website.
Good evening. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to follow up on that. I mean, I'm sick of my taxes going up all the time. And I realize the city is, let's say, a third of that. You got the city, you got the county, you got 290. So, but somebody has got to step up and say, we're going to stop spending money. I mean, you run a business. I mean, I've owned several businesses. I've managed several businesses. The guy that gets paid last is me. Because if there ain't money to pay for all the utilities, all the expenses, all the overhead, all the other employees, there's got to be something left for me or I just don't get nothing. But it's kind of like the city just says, oh, we're short money. Let's just raise taxes. I mean, somebody has got to draw the line on spending. If the city does it first, then maybe the county will follow, maybe USD 290 will follow, and we can actually make a difference in getting the property taxes reduced. I don't know. But anyway, is there any kind of a plan in the future, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, to try to stop spending or at least, you know, put a halt on it? Or are we just going to keep increasing the budget every year and then keep expecting the taxpayers to foot the bill? I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't see anybody giving me an answer. So I'll take that as at this point, there is no kind of a idea about cutting the budget. So thanks. And I guess that's all I got for now.
Thank you.
Chris Black. Okay. Gary and Karen Harris.
I haven't been to all the meetings, so I haven't been following everything. But I have been watching my tax dollars be spent for many years. We've lived here for 23 years this month. This month. Golf course, I don't understand it. But I do have a couple of questions and I guess food for thought. So I didn't think that the cities were allowed to raise mill levies without a vote of the residents. And I don't totally understand what this revenue neutral rate thing is. I listened, but I didn't understand it. I won't pretend like I did, but it kind of sounds like you could be raising it. So, question one there. Another thing, values have gone up on properties and they do every year, which will then raise our taxes paid in. So I don't understand why it's okay to raise the mill levy when if the values are going up, you're getting more revenue, which is costing us more. And the public has to live on a budget, and our means, we don't get to raise our mill levy for what we buy our groceries, gas, vacations, cars, kids' clothes, the essentials. We have to live off of what we make. I also have a house that I own. It's as a rental house. Years ago, I called somebody from the city and I said, look, I said, the curb is gone. The snow trucks have hit it and it is a brick street and there's no curb and my yard is falling into the street. And he was like, well, we have our plan for this year is already done and the streets we're going to do is this next year is already on the thing. And I'm like, kind of get on the list for somewhere. And that was probably about 8 years ago and my yard is still falling. So there is a lot of issues with streets, a lot of issues with curbs and stuff like that. So that's what I have to say. I think that's all. Yeah, that's all I have. Your turn.
My wife and I have small businesses here in town. we have to operate within a budget. If we don't stay within our budget, guess what? We don't do business. The banker says no. We've got at least 2 small business owners and a former banker here on the commission. I would think that, I know the 2 small business owners have suffered the same way I have. I would love to upgrade my equipment every couple of years and my trucks. It's not happening. I just have to keep fixing what I got. Maybe instead of spending more money on new, maybe we ought to fix what we got and operate within our means instead of just dinging somebody for more money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christine Hughes.
Hi, thanks for us being here. This is the first time we've ever been to anything like this. But I will tell you that my husband and I bought a home here a little over a year ago. And when the realtor brought us, we live on the north end. And I've heard a lot about the north end. And I'm going to agree with everybody on the north end. We love our home, but we don't like the area. And that's because when the realtor took us out, we went out Davis to north. We're on North Sycamore. And it's very nice. But if you go down Sycamore, it gets really bad. And we've waited a year to see if somebody was going to do something. Our street is totally coming undone. And before too long, we're not going to be able to drive on it. We have an officer that lives next door to us, and I know he's experiencing the same thing. So something has to be done. Then we get a tax bill, and I'm like, what are you doing with the property tax that is being paid? Where's it going? Because it's not going on your streets. We drive the streets. They're horrible. And we moved here because we thought this was going to be a nice community for us to live in, to retire. We are retired. And our property tax went up. And we're like, you know, there is a mobile home sitting right at the end of a mobile home park that has grass and trees and windows out. It's totally been abandoned for the entire year. Why does the city not take care of properties like that? Somebody needs to go out there and say, whoever owns this, get it out of here, because that decreases our property value. It's just a few doors down. And we don't understand that. That's one of the issues. The other is the street. That street has to be fixed. We have new vehicles. We are not going to allow our vehicles to be tore up by our street. It's ridiculous that it's that way. And I don't understand that at all. And when we drive through town, half of the streets, the brick streets, I see that. It is just, we do not want to move. But if our property tax goes up next year, I guarantee you we will move out of Franklin County, and we will let people know, do not move to Franklin County. So that's all I have to say. I hope that you guys, if you are elected officials, then you all need to, we haven't been here long enough to elect anybody. But if, yes, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So anyways, that's all I have. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Okay. Would anybody like to speak that was not on the comment sheet? Okay, go ahead and come on.
Please state your name.
John McNicky, been a resident for over 20 years here in Ottawa and senior. And of course, my biggest complaint is the increase of our taxes, because we're also considering moving because we just can't afford it anymore. They keep raising the value of our house, even though we've not made any changes to it.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak that was not on the comment sheet? Go ahead. Just please state your name when you get up there.
My name is Phyllis Bond. I live at 833 North Cedar Street. I've been there for 20 years in November. Black Hawk between Cedar and Cherry, I believe. All the way up Cherry. They came in, I don't know, a few years ago and chip and sealed the city street. Over potholes you cannot avoid. She lives on the corner there. She can't get to her house, to her driveway for potholes. You can't avoid them. They're everywhere. 20 years I've been at that house and they've been there. They've come out and filled them 2 or 3 times and they put that chip and seal on. How long did that chip and seal last, honey?
They come out of the alley and they're bouncing.
Exactly.
The alley is on.
I know. Mine too. 20 years. But our taxes went up. I pay over $165 a month in taxes on a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. That's ridiculous.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak that was not on the comment sheet? Go ahead. Just state your name, please.
Tyler Talmadge. I just wanted to come up here and basically reiterate what everybody else has said. I've been a homeowner for 6 years now, and every year my property taxes have gone up. I've got a family of 5. We both work, struggling like hell, and it's just a shame what you guys are passing for budgets. For sure. And we are definitely probably planning on moving out if our taxes go up again next year. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Any other comments on the public hearing? Okay. And so we will next move on to item 11B.
Request for approval of resolution to levy property tax exceeding the revenue neutral rate.
See, the revenue neutral rate for the city was calculated at 44.112 mils by the Franklin County Clerk. The city intends to levy a property tax rate exceeding the revenue neutral rate, which requires adoption of this proposed resolution. And Director Landis, did you have anything else you want to comment?
Just, we do have this slide. I just wanted to reiterate that this is one of 2 steps tonight. This is the first. And this is the step that is directly related to the state statute, related directly to the revenue neutral rate portion of that Senate bill that we discussed earlier this evening. And that adoption of this resolution is actually a protection for you in case that final assessed valuation increases the mill rate higher than the stated revenue neutral rate that's been provided to you from the county. That final assessed valuation doesn't come until October, so that's after you've approved any budget. If you don't pass the resolution this evening and your mill rate comes out, your final mill rate comes out to be higher than that, per that statute, you have to issue refunds to everyone within the city. So again, prescribed within that is the suggestion that a resolution is passed that you would exceed the revenue neutral rate. Adopting this resolution does not actually determine what your actual budget is going to be. This just is a step that's outlined, predetermined as part of that statute.
Are there any questions for Director Landis? I just kind of wanted to reemphasize this is not setting the mill rate in this step, that is in the next step. So just to clarify that. Any questions?
I just want to make sure you did officially open the hearing. I didn't
opened
hear
it
a
at
time.
7:03.
Okay.
Yep.
And you closed that hearing.
Nope, it's not closed yet. Any questions for Director Landis?
Director Landis, on the potential to exceed, say we exceed $5, $1,000, whatever that may be, if that rate does change, is that essentially just prorated? Does city staff have to essentially figure out what that rate would be, cut checks back to people? How does that like process work if we do revenue neutral?
Yeah.
And that valuation comes in higher than the 156 million and affects that, and we're $1 over $5. What does that like look like?
There's a procedure that's set out with your county clerk, and we would have to work directly with the county, and then there would be an expense either back to the city for that process being run through the county, or we've not been in that situation. I don't know any place firsthand that's been in that situation yet, because it is recommended that you pass this to as that protection, but you. But
Quiet, please.
thank you. There, the process would be something that's outlined by statute. We would work with the county clerk to administer that.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions? How would we like to proceed?
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner?
I make the motion to approve the resolution that would exceed the revenue neutral rate.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any further discussion? May I have roll call vote, please?
How do you vote, Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Clayton?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
And Mayor Allen?
And I vote yes, motion carries. I will close the public hearing at 8:05. Next, we will move on to item 11C.
Request for approval of a resolution adopting the 2026 budget.
The commission has heard a presentation from city staff and held a public hearing regarding the proposed 2026 budget. The adopted budget cannot exceed the published total expenditure of $72,854,331, ad valorem of $7,002,855, or the mill rate of 44.643. And we have Director Landis.
Thank you. As we discussed earlier, this is actually the step that sets the budget. And so the previous action is not actually setting the adopted budget. And so I appreciate those interested in staying. The published budget is here on your screen, and we discussed this earlier. These are the total published expenditures, the total published ad valorem, and the mill rate. And the other opportunity for you is to approve a budget that either meets but does not exceed any one of these items, or something less in each of these categories, but you cannot go over any one of those items per fund. This is a screen that represents for you what a budget might look like if you did adopt a budget that reflects the revenue neutral rate. And because as we talked about earlier, there are 4 mill levy funds, or 4 funds that are supported by mill levy. And the debt service are principal and interest payments that you're required to make, you're obligated to make. The auditorium is a very small mill levy supported fund and has a very low fund balance. And so we wouldn't recommend lowering that mill rate. And the library is a budget that comes to you directly, and you don't have the opportunity to lower. So if you would like to meet the revenue neutral rate, or a property tax amount that reflects the revenue neutral rate, we would decrease the general fund total expenditures and total property tax amount to reduce your overall total mill rate to meet that revenue neutral rate of 44.112. I'm happy to answer any questions about this slide versus the previous budget that was presented and the information that we covered earlier. If you don't have questions, we can come back to that slide. Then we have prepared for you 2 different motions, one reflecting adoption of the budget at the published total expenditures, total property tax or ad valorem, and total mill rate, and a second motion for adopting a resolution which would adopt a budget with a lowered total expenditures, lowered total property tax, and lowered mill rate to reflect what that revenue neutral rate is. And we're happy to answer any questions about the budget, anything within the budget, anything that we've presented this evening that would help you make that determination.
Any questions for Director Landis? on this item.
Can you quickly again just touch on the difference from last year with the 52 million? I forget exactly the exact number we're estimating for this year, and the 72, and what that really is, that we're not spending 72 million, kind of what that would be if there's a disaster, if a tornado hits town, if the levees were to break and we needed to spend emergency money. Kind of touch on, I guess, what that authority is again.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad you asked that question. So in this slide, those are the three columns on the very right. The third to the left, third from the left is the budget authority for total expenditures. In that column, that is the total amount of budgeted expenditure authority. And under state budget law, you must have budget authority to spend any dollars, regardless of whether there's cash available in that fund. So when you, I apologize, it's very small. The total expenditures in that column is 72,854,331. Of that total, the actual budgeted expenditures in the budget document that was provided in the materials is 55,845,348. So the total out of all of those funds is equivalent, just roughly equivalent to what we expect to spend this year out of all of those funds. And again, only 4 of those total funds are mill levy or property tax supported funds. And it just, because we do have such a large audience, the rest of those funds are supported by specific revenues that are for each of those funds. So for instance, in the electric fund, it is supported by electric revenues. In the economic development fund, those are supported by dollars that come in from those that we have some rentals for some of our towers. There's other things, other revenue sources that come in there that support those expenditures. In the special parks fund, we have money that comes in that supports our park expenditures in that fund. We have operations in the general fund, but special revenue and capital improvements come out of that other fund, where we have park fees and we bring in special alcohol tax that is split between the special parks and the general fund and the special alcohol fund. So there's a variety of revenue sources and streams that support all of the remaining funds that are listed below those top 4. So out of that total 72 million, what's budgeted is 55,845,348.
And Director Landon, this is on our website also. It's published in the paper as well. So if people really want to dig into the numbers, we'll take a look at them. They're available for everybody, right?
Absolutely. So the summarized state budget form is on our website. And
Quiet, please.
the certificate page was published in the newspaper, which was available for this evening's public hearing. The full budget form is on our website, and also the detailed budget was in the packet for this evening.
Yeah.
Any further questions? I know, just kind of throwing it out, I would be more in favor of keeping it flat and going with the revenue neutral rate of 44.112. But I'm not sure if there are other suggestions, other calculations that anybody else has made.
Yeah, we've never been this close to the revenue neutral rate. In the past, it's normally been 4 or 5 mils difference, and now we're talking about a little over half of a mil. So I'm with the mayor on this. I'm more inclined to go with option number 2. In fact, I'll go ahead and just make that a motion. Let's do that.
Okay.
We'll make the motion. We adopt the resolution approving the 2026 budget, which includes expenditures authority, 72,772,361, supported by ad valorem taxes of 6,919,560, an estimated mill rate reflective of the revenue neutral rate of 44.112.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? May I have roll call vote, please?
How do you vote, Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Clayton?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
And Mayor Allen?
And I vote yes, motion carries. That'll move us on to item 11D.
Consider approval of resolution adopting the 2026 to 2030 capital improvement program.
The The 2026 to 2030 Capital Improvement Plan has been reviewed by the City Commission and Planning Commission, and a public hearing held and found to be in conformance with Ottawa's comprehensive plan. We have Director Landis.
Thank you. As you mentioned, this and was brought to you in April, and we talked about these projects early enough in the year that we could determine which projects could fit within a budget and which ones needed further more revenue stream or a different revenue stream if we needed to seek a grant to accomplish any one of these, and then prioritize those projects in over 5 years. Within that plan, there are projects listed for 5 years, but we do have an additional page full of projects that we would love to be able to accomplish should those revenues become available. And that, again, could be in the form of a grant. It could be a foundation. It could be someone wants to make some sort of a legacy donation to a park or for a large improvement. And so those are the types of projects that are listed there in that plan, but they're not funded and they're not planned in the next 5 years until a better opportunity to be able to put those into motion comes to us. Within the total capital improvement plan, the total is $30,341,830. Again, that includes all revenue streams. That is not just property tax supported. We had extensive conversation about how those revenue streams support those projects. We've discussed this in 9 city commission meetings over 4 months, and the planning commission reviewed it at 2 public meetings and also held a public hearing on August 13th, 2025. The planning commission's role in this process is to find that the capital improvement program is actually in conformance with the city's comprehensive plan, and they did so on that August 13th date. Included within the next couple of years is a few key capital projects, and most of them related to either utilities or our park system, the electric system conversion, our annual water main and line replacement program, which we've listed 5 different years worth of main replacements in the program, our Pin Oak pump station replacement, the river crossing circuit rebuild, the golf course irrigation system replacement. Under public safety, we've got 15th and Main traffic signal replacement, the 17th and Main traffic signal replacement, and Princeton Circle sidewalk, which we've begun that study process, or we will within this upcoming budget season. The quality of life and economic development projects are the airport taxiway reconstruction, the aquatic center planning, and the golf course cart paths. And then under our financial considerations, the proposed CIP is programmed to utilize all the funds that might be available. So city funds, state, federal, private foundation grants, and long-term debt, and the strategic use of those external funding sources such as the FAA grants and the state transportation funds ensures that the city maximizes our impact on the investments while minimizing the financial impact on our neighbors and business owners. The legal considerations for this item is that the resolution has been reviewed by our city attorney and approved as to form. Our recommendation would be that you consider and approve a resolution that adopts the 2026 to 2030 capital improvement program, or you could move this to a future item. And I might also note that this program does include a 2025 revised year as well within that document. And happy to answer any questions, and your department heads are happy to talk about any of the projects if you need.
And you may have mentioned this, but this is a fluid plan, is that correct? So should some major expense come up that something more unnecessary isn't needed right then, we would change the plan around, is that correct?
Yes, and that seems to happen all the time. We've determined that there might be a project that takes priority because it's a safety hazard, or there's a need within a utility infrastructure problem. We need to switch that plan and make one of those projects a higher priority than the others. And so we'll move that up and push the others back until funds are available to accomplish the rest.
Thank you.
I think we call that municipal triage, would be a way to put it. I guess so. Good. Thanks.
Any other questions for Director Landis?
Director Landis, just
yes,
the difference between things that are actually on and kind of have a year essentially planned and then the future capital improvement projects. That's that option that if something is not on the future capital improvement projects, are we able to do things? You know, looking at sidewalks, I think there's flags on 11th Street as they're starting kind of the design process of that, but that's in future plan. Does it limit us at all when things are not actually on the 5-year plan and are just down below in like a future project?
Great question. It does not limit us. This is just a plan. There is nothing here. When you approve this plan, it's just stating that you support the projects that are in it. However, if you read within the document itself, it explains how sometimes those priorities can come up that need to take place, or maybe that sidewalk becomes one of those items that it wasn't planned before, but the study comes back that it is actually, and there's an opportunity to complete that project sooner than planned, and we would want to move that up in our process. And so again, like you said, it's a fluid document, it's a fluid plan. We can move things around as we see fit. This is just a general indication to the public of what we have on our radar and what we're working to accomplish overall. I might mention, because there were several comments about the streets earlier, we do not have the street plan within the capital improvement program. And the purpose for that is those are maintenance projects, not capital improvement projects. And so there is a 5-year road maintenance plan. We've had in-depth conversations about that throughout this budget season. And your director of public works has discussed with you what that 5-year plan looks like. And I'm sure would be happy to revisit that at any future meeting with you again. And but we didn't include that in the CIP because it's a maintenance program as opposed to a large capital improvement plan.
Director Sneeden. So on page 248 of our agenda, we have some pictures of some infrastructure that we've done. I know our capital improvement plan it's based upon our future, what we're going to do 2025 on to 2030, and then even further on. But can you talk about some of the infrastructure projects that we've actually done in the last few years, like the hundreds and thousands of feet of water lines that we've put in, 19th Street, 17th to 15th, downtown? Can you just talk about some of those projects that we have done in the last few years?
Most recently, the water line on South Main Street from 15th to 7th Street on the east side of the road, that project was really not on our radar as a CIP project. It was moved up due to emergency circumstances. The line that ran along the east side of that road was in major bad condition. It was all corroded inside, so we decided that we needed to take care of that on an immediate basis. So we moved another project that was along 19th Street that we have multiple water main breaks on to replace that one as well. There's a little bit of understanding about the water line process. Our distribution superintendent does a really good job of keeping track of water leaks. Actually, right now, we're in the middle of fixing one right down the road by the Methodist Church. He does a really good job of prioritizing and understanding that it doesn't matter which area you live in. If there's multiple water leaks in your area, that will be added to the list to replace, and it will become a CIP project.
Thank you.
Yep. Would you like examples of any more, or is that
If you'd like
significant?
it.
Another recent project was we have this down 4th Street from Poplar to Mulberry. I would say the south side of the road was redone recently due to, again, aging infrastructure, water main breaks, and our guys usually try to hit at least 2 to 4 blocks of total line replacement every year. That is included in that budget that you just passed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Sneeden, while you're up, I kind of try to take notes on a lot of the public comments we heard. And as someone born and raised on the north side, I lived there my entire life until I became an adult. Could you touch on, I know we recently did a project for a sewer lift, to cross the river and kind of what was that process and, the cost of that and the kind of the purpose of crossing the river over by Second Street treatments.
Before 2023, we were limited on growth on the north side due to our sewer infrastructure. Our wastewater infrastructure, all the pump stations get pumped to our river lift station there behind the car wash. Yes. Without this new infrastructure, we call our Cottonwood lift station. Without that, we are limited on the amount of processed wastewater that we can get across the river. That allows us to grow exponentially on the north side, whether that's the all that vacant land close to I-35. We could easily bring gravity feed into that and get pumped to the wastewater treatment plant across the river. That project alone was grant funded. We already had the design in place from years and years ago, and we were able with a grant to take care of that project with no funds on the city side.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? How would we like to proceed with the capital improvement program?
I'll make the motion. We approve item 11D on our agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any further discussion? May I have roll call vote, please?
How do you vote, Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Clayton?
Yes.
And Mayor Allen?
And I vote yes, the motion carries. That'll move us on to comments by our city manager.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Commissioners. I'd like to take this moment to commend you as our City Commission and community leaders, the dedicated professionals of your city staff across all of our departments, especially the Department of Finance, and most importantly, our neighbors here this evening and viewing at home who've participated in this year's budget process, which is the most important in setting priorities and policies for civic policy and laying out the vision. It's where the rubber meets the road. And so I appreciate everyone's participation and engagement through comment, through thoughtful inquiry, and for staying informed, becoming informed, and strengthening our democratic institutions and ensure that these decisions reflect the shared priorities of our community and fall within a orchestrated, concerted, strategic plan that is a living document that is adaptive, as we've seen with the CIP that was just adopted. And we just finalized our operating budget for 26. I do want to take this moment, and as Commissioner Clayton did, I was a little going crazy on my my notes so that we can follow up and better serve our neighbors and the governing body. One of the things that I think needs to be remembered in this process is that in Kansas, our appraisal process is at the county appraiser level, and that, again, cities in Kansas have no authority over property appraisal or the appraisal process, which is, again, independently conducted and is implemented in accordance with state law. So I would encourage folks to take the time to politely engage your elected state representatives in assessing how this process plays out. Because you as we are all property taxpayers to the city, the county, the school district, and our state. And we even pay a levy to the extension office. So I don't know if you're aware of that. So it's something that I know all, it was Tip O'Neill who said that all politics is local. And you have your municipality, your city, your county, and that's your interaction with government on a daily basis. And every single person that's serving both here on this bench and in this room tonight, those who've had the courage to file to run for election, to put their name out there on a ballot, the individuals who are sitting before us tonight are substantially braver than I am as an appointed official who I don't have the courage to put my name out there for folks. So I commend everyone, both those serving and those who have filed both presently and previously to serve their communities, whether it's the city or the county or state offices, because I know everyone here genuinely wants to serve you, whether it's your state representative, your state senator, your county commissioners, and your city commissioners. They want to make sure that we are aligning with our community vision. And, we are taking steps to make sure that we do that we communicate that in the budget that was just adopted. There's a significant investment relative to current levels for investment in our webpage and in outreach services so that we are providing messaging to our neighbors across all mediums. Some folks are visual learners, some folks are listeners. I'm a reader and a writer. If I don't have notes, I ramble, as you can tell, as this is pretty extemporaneous, and so I apologize. But I just want to thank everyone because those of us that have been around the world and in multiple continents and have seen democracy where it's lacking, where it's absent, where it's in its infancy. This is a wonderful thing. And I know that it's passionate, and we too appreciate your well thought out and articulated statements. So I thank everyone, both our governing body, those in attendance tonight, those that are taking the time to watch online at home or at a later date, for their participation in this process, because we do catalog and try and make the best of what we can from the feedback and the partnership that your government has with you, the people, in moving together so that we can, with transparency and accountability and shared purpose, better serve you and not just those here today, but the generation of tomorrow. Because ultimately, the investments that we make, both in the budgets that were adopted tonight and in the future, are going to benefit those that are in our elementary schools today, which is the largest percentage of our property taxes that we pay. And I would contend that that is money well spent. We may differ on some subtleties, but if we're not investing in our future, then we will be at a loss as not just a community, but a society. So thank you. You may have noticed that the traffic signal at the intersection of First and Main, it was hit by a vehicle at a high rate of speed and had to be essentially taken out of service. It was instantaneously rendered useless as it was knocked off its base and severed the cabling. And as luck would have it, it's also where the control cabinet is that controls the traffic signal. So that's now been gone. The good thing is that no one was injured and that the driver has insurance. So we will be able to make those improvements. And kind of talking about what we just discussed and being nimble, we will also need to be making some modernization enhancements, as that is one of the older signals in our system. So obviously we can't pass that along to the individual, but we can cover that difference. So that'll be helpful. And that will be underway here later this week, but it will take some time going forward. And I know if there are more questions in detail, Director Sneathen is ready to answer those questions. Want to highlight some works by our Public Works in the parks, where the fountain at Haley Park was malfunctioning and was vandalized. And so they had corrected that. And also for setting up their flags downtown for Labor Day. It was beautiful. And for Public Works for supporting the OU Fusion events, Parade of Champions, as well as a half marathon for barricading the crossing points for our trail. Our water plant completed repairs to our mower to continue to improve the life of existing assets as we move forward. Want to ask folks to attend some activities at the OMA and around our community, where we have the Brews, Beats, and Boutiques downtown, September 6th. And that'll be from 12 to 5. And then we'll have the annual Power of the Past, kind of teeing up the annual car show, but the Power of the Past is September 12th through the 14th in Forest Park. And so if you're someone who is from a farm, like I know myself or Ms. Allen, or you had grandparents, some sort of connection, I always find that fascinating because it reminds me of my adolescence as a child with some of those tractors and what my granddad had. And then the chamber copy at the Old Depot Museum, where there'll be a presentation on the rise and fall of the Zellner building. And want to highlight the work of our folks in leveraging outside dollars for community activities. We have the Levitt grant opportunity that we're pursuing. So Friends of the OMA grant have applied to the Levitt Foundation, and we were selected from over 300 applications and have advanced to public voting for the grant process. So we need to make sure that we get participation from our community to secure enough votes to move to the final review for this 3-year grant that will help provide free music series to our community. And so that is something that we can all benefit from, that's free. Voting begins September 5th and ends on September 15th, and you can only vote once online or by text message. So look to social media on the city's Facebook page, on the OMA's page for more information. We also, if you have questions on that, I know City Clerk Reed and our OMA Director, Tiffany, she's here, and so they can answer your questions in detail on this. And I appreciate both of them and their time in what they put into this. The OMA has been one of our most successful of harnessing these very difficult to get cultural and tourism grants and bringing in venues and events and activities to our community. So I want to thank both of them. We currently have a couple of open positions. So Assistant City Clerk, Director of Neighborhood Services, and our couple of golf course positions. And we have our timeline here. So we'll begin resume review September 29th, the last week of September for that position. And we have some upcoming items for our September 10th commission agenda. And if there are no questions for myself or another member of the team, that concludes my report. Thank you.
We'll move on to comments by the governing body. We'll start with Commissioner Skidmore.
I have no comment.
Commissioner Crowley.
Our city manager thanked us. I actually would like to thank staff. As our finance director mentioned earlier, they start in early January on this budget. We see bits and pieces of it. You guys see every bit of it. And you guys do a darn good job of going through it and you know what we're requesting. And our department heads certainly do too, and they do a darn good job of doing the best they can to keep numbers down on this budget. So I'd like to thank staff. I also, I may be weird in saying this, but this is actually kind of my favorite time of the year. I get a little bored looking out and only seeing a few individuals throughout the year, and it's always good to see the passion that people have about their what they own, their money, and where they live, quite honestly. And quite frankly, folks, we have the same passion that you do. Not a one of us up here, I promise you, want our taxes to go up either. But as some of you mentioned, this is a business too, and it takes money to run a business. We could certainly cut the golf course if you would like. Then what? The pool? You want us to cut the pool next? The parks? Where do we stop? And then if we cut all that, what do we have left for a town? Well, we're not cutting.
What you got. Don't buy something new. You don't buy a
And-
new toy just because the old one breaks.
That's quiet, quiet, quiet,
Down that street.
quiet, please.
So-
Received your input and we
Thank
appreciate
thank you, thank you. And I appreciate your input now, I really do, because I appreciate the passion that you guys have, I really do. And we've worked really hard. If this is the only meeting you've listened to, you should go back and listen to all the meetings that we've done. We literally tried to work with our county to acquire TGT dollars so that we could spend more money on streets. Okay, we've been doing what we could in order to spend more money on the things that everybody wants fixed in this town. We're doing the best we can, but I appreciate the passion that you guys have. I really do. And thank you all for showing up tonight. I thank you. I appreciate you for being here.
Mayor Pro Tem Clayton.
Yeah, I of course will reiterate that, say thank you to everyone coming. I know this in my few years that I've been sitting up here, this is the most people that have ever been to a meeting. On our community survey we'd sent out a few weeks ago now, one of the responses that kind of got the most negative was the commissioner's, I guess, willingness to listen, hearing public feedback. And I want to reiterate as well, I appreciate the passion and bringing up things as well. I want to plug again, we have email addresses. I know people say that we don't listen. I haven't received a single email about budget. And so, not that that is your guys' onerous, but emails are open. We have Facebook pages. We have ways to reach out. So I want you guys to feel comfortable to do that. Like, that is the position that we sit in. I get stopped at Walmart by people. I meet people for coffee. I would love anyone who's here, shoot me a text, email me. I will meet you, talk about these things. So I appreciate that. Again, don't know, it's not lost on us. I don't know how frustrated I get driving down 9th Street in my truck, so I understand some of those pains. I grew up on Poplar, so I know Blackhawk as well. And so I understand some of these pains. And just recently this year, we started spending $500,000 on street repairs. I think some of these things are information that may not be disseminated well, and I think that's something we really need to improve upon, is getting this information out. I just looked up for a brick roads replacement, the range is between $21 and $37 million. And that's a huge number, and where that is coming from. So I want people to understand, we are starting this
Quiet,
process.
please. Quiet, please.
We are looking at roads and improvements and what that's going to look like over the next 5, 10, 20 years, and working to come up with plans to fund these things. And so I appreciate everyone being here, reaching out, having their input on that as well. And so thank you all for being here.
Commissioner Kaler.
Instead of email and stuff, why don't you do?
Quiet,
Okay,
please.
sir, here's the thing. We gave you time. I'm just going to ask for just a couple minutes. Just, okay? And I'm happy to give you time, but if you'll just honor me by giving me time, just as respect. I respectfully listen to your time, so please listen to my time. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So this is my 14th budget with the city of Ottawa. as a commissioner. And I too want to thank staff because they work very, very hard. What I want people to remember is the majority of our budget is personnel. And that is the person sitting honestly, in this room, it's someone else sitting in this room that is an employee of the city of Ottawa. They are public servants. They are police officers. They are fire department. They are city personnel who are out there when it's snowing like crazy and trying to clean up our streets. And so I want you to know that I appreciate every single person who is one of our city employees. My parents were also public servants. My dad worked for the sheriff's department and my mom worked for the school district. And I appreciate that they did that, and they could have chosen a myriad of other jobs, but they didn't, and they gave to the public. And so when we go to pass this budget, it is not lost on me that the majority of our budget is personnel cost. And that I'm really proud of our employees. So thank you to our employees, is what I would say.
Thank you. And I also want to thank everyone for showing up and partaking in the process. I think it sometimes gets lost a little bit that we too pay taxes. And I just wanted to say, I don't know everybody in the audience, so that means you probably don't know me. I do work a full-time job. I work at Garmin. I have 6 kids, so I have a house. I have a very expensive tax bill as well. It's also public what we make here, which is $300 a month. So we're not doing it because we're getting rich. We're doing it because we're passionate about it. So $300 a month does not pay my taxes even. That doesn't even come close to paying my taxes. So I'm here because I love the city. I want it to be a place where my kids want to grow up. I want it to be a place where I retire. I want it to be all of those things. So whether everyone agrees with the decisions we make or not, I always make a decision with that in mind. Like, I love this town. I always do that. And another thing I want to say is please continue to be engaged, because I didn't know about the Black Hawk Street potholes because I don't live on Black Hawk Street. Sure. So I didn't know about those because I don't drive down it. But now that I know, we can try to fix it. So those things, please reach out. Please, you can come to meetings. It's not that it's our comment time. You can come to meetings anytime. Every meeting, we have public comments at the beginning of the meeting that you can come comment. You can let us know those issues, and we can then know that these are things we need to take care of if they're not on some immediate plan anyway. So thank you for showing up. Thank you for letting us know about some of these issues. And we can't make something a priority if we don't know about it. So thank you for that. We'll move on to announcements. We'll move on to announcements. On September 10th, we have a city commission meeting at 4 p.m. September 17th, city commission meeting at 10 a.m. September 24th, city commission meeting at 4 p.m., all here at City Hall. And seeing no other business before us, I will adjourn.